Hey Jenny, what's so great about beer?
Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Welcome. You are listening to Beer Talk Radio, the only craft beer podcast in the business section. I am your host, Jenny the Greek, the queen of beers, la reina de cerveza, the Khaleesi of craft, the Bourdain of brews, the Cardi B of ABV, pourer of pilsners, and lover of local dives. Make sure to visit the Beer Talk Radio website at www.beertalkradio.net. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please send me an email, jenny@beertalkradio.net. And if you're a fan, you can be on the show as well. Just click the link in my show notes, leave me a voicemail, and I'll put you on the following episode. Let's drink. For today's episode, I have a very special guest, kind of a friend, kind of a mentor. I met him through a professional event, and the guy just kind of left an impression on me. Not to mention, we have similar tattoos on our forearms. He's a really, really cool chef. He's very experienced. He comes from the fine dining background and is now changed his life, becoming a barbecue pit master. He owns Seismic Barbecue Catering in San Francisco. He's a really nice guy, very well-traveled, and I'm just excited to have him on the show. So thanks for being here, Steve.
Hello, that was a hell of an introduction. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm just so impressed with your style of barbecue. And I think what I love the most about what you do is that you're really representing old school Americana, very basic, but very regionally authentic and honest. Your sauces each have a special character to them. Your rubs each have a special character to them. Everything that you create, even your side dishes, are so well balanced, and I'm just a big fan. Tell me when you first started cooking, and then fast forward that all the way to why the hell you decided to leave making foie gras to smoking brisket.
Yeah, for sure. So I started in the industry when I was 14, washing dishes in a little Greasy Spoon Diner in my hometown. I lied on my application to get the job as far as my age was concerned. And the second I walked into that dish pit, I was in love. And I knew almost immediately that this was the career that I wanted to do. From there, I went front of the house for a long time and then got to culinary school when we moved to San Francisco about 15 years ago.
Wait, where were you?
Redding, California.
Okay.
It's a very small town in Northern California. So it was effectively working at like the Denny's, basically. We moved to San Francisco, and my wife, who's a professional, I put that in quotation marks, like we're not professionals, but who's been to college, who has a degree, sort of wanted to know what I wanted to do with my life. And I had floated around community college trying to figure something else out that would give me the enjoyment that the service industry did. And I couldn't find anything. And so finally one night I was like, I want to stay in the service industry. And my wife, who's very sweet and has supported me, on every move that I've made, said, well, okay, that's great. What do you need to do to make this a legitimate career? I said, I need to go to culinary school. I need to learn the back of the house part of it. So I went to City College, phenomenal school, great education. You're not going to graduate there with $95,000 of debt. It was phenomenal. And then, and then from there, I started in pastry at a Michelin 2-star place. Loved it. It was a lot of fun. The hours were terrible. And my wife and I had another conversation about 6 months into my back of the house career. And she said, if I wanted to marry someone with a surgeon's hours, I would have married a surgeon. So she loves when I tell that story, as you can probably guess. But she was right. My work-life balance was skewered, and there was no way to fix that except leave fine dining and find something a little more casual that would also give me the same satisfaction as the fine dining aspect did. And that's actually harder than it sounds to find. I ended up over at Memphis Minis in San Francisco, and that's where I really fell in love with barbecue. And I've been there since. I was there, about 14 years ago, and ever since I've been in barbecue. I just fell in love with it. It was that same feeling as walking into that dish pit as a 14-year-old kid. The sense that there was something greater than you about it. And when I was younger, as the dishwasher, it was watching the action of the kitchen and being part of the team, which was really, really fun. With barbecue, it was something a little more. I was obviously older, and what I found to be that certain aspect that I knew that this was bigger than me was the history and Americana behind barbecue. And I've loved it ever since. And so, I've opened a couple of barbecue restaurants with some buddies. I ran a couple of barbecue food trucks in the Bay Area. And then my wife again was like, I think it's time for you to start off on your own. We opened Seismic Barbecue and the shared catering kitchen. And we've been doing that for about 3.5 years now.
Behind every great man is a brutally honest woman who makes him be better. I think that's amazing. So shout out to your wife for pushing you in the direction that you went in. Now, for those of us who've had the restaurant life, we know what it's like to work 3 to midnight, Wednesday through Sunday. We can't see our families. There's no holidays for us. There's no weekends for us. Such a big difference coming to corporate. And I'm always encouraging people on my show to switch, and what I call corporate the dark side. Like, if this is selling out, I should have sold out a long fucking time ago. I love corporate dining. So you're in a little bit of a unique situation. Now, without getting into too much of the finances, can you explain how you're able to run a private barbecue catering company and still have the corporate hours serving the corporate clientele? Like, what connections did you have to make this a reality for yourself?
Totally. We partner with a couple of sort of like, let's call them third-party vendors, where they set up the orders for us, and then we fulfill the order, but they do all the sort of back-end stuff, talking to the admins, the office administrators at Google and Facebook and all the other tech companies. And then we just get the order and then we fulfill the order. So those companies have really great sort of connections with larger tech companies. And then from there, we've grown our business, obviously at San Francisco. So everyone has a buddy in tech. So, we'll drop off barbecue for one of my buddies when we were first starting, and then all of a sudden the entire complex smells like barbecue, and everyone who works on the floor is asking, where's this barbecue from? And then lo and behold, now you get orders from 2 floors down and 2 floors up. So it pays to have the personal connections, but I have to say, using these third-party sort of vendor apps has really allowed us to expand our business to the corporate side for breakfast and lunch in a way that honestly I'm not equipped to do on my own. So having them, it has been really a key part of growing Seismic into the corporate catering that we want to be.
Very cool. Very cool. Just getting back to your passion about food, it's fascinating to me. I feel the same way. But sometimes I think certain chefs have an ego and they're reluctant to go from making super expensive, fancy schmancy foods to selling something that's a little bit more casual. But what I say is, if your food is honest and you're still putting the love in the food, it doesn't matter. And obviously, I made the joke earlier, if you can make more money selling brisket than foie gras, then fucking sell the brisket. Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, because I've tasted all your products. I've tasted all your sauces. Everything's super balanced. I really want to talk about your sauces to start with. You do put a lot of love in it, and I taste it. So can you describe each one of your sauces, why it's regionally relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. So San Francisco, as we all know, the Bay Area is a region of transplants, and so you get your very occasionally meeting a native San Francisco or a fourth generation San Franciscan, but more often than not, people go to school somewhere else and they end up finding a job or a career out here in the Bay Area. So what we wanted to do with Seismic Barbecue is sort of bring those regional sauces back home to the people who might miss them otherwise. So we do 4 different regional sauces, and I know there are much more than 4 regional barbecue sauces, but at some point you just have to say what sells and what doesn't, and do what the guests want, right? So let's start with the common, what most people think of as a barbecue sauce, and that'd be the Kansas City sweet sauce. It's what 99% of the barbecue sauces are that you see in the grocery stores. Ours is obviously made fresh, homemade. We don't use high fructose corn syrup or anything like that, but it still has that sweet, that stickiness. Really great to like glaze a rib with. Really great on a pork sandwich with a little coleslaw on top. There's 1,000 ways to use that, and we make our own root beer syrup in house to give it kind of that sweetness. We use molasses as one of our sweeteners. It's a great barbecue sauce. It's an all-around one. It's what 90% of the people know as barbecue sauce. That being said, for the other 10% of people, if you put that in front of them and said it's a barbecue sauce, they'd be like, I don't know where you're from, buddy, but that's not a barbecue sauce where I grew up. That's when we move into the North Carolina vinegar dip. The opposite end of the spectrum as far as barbecue sauces, it is a vinegar punch to the face that's mellowed just slightly with a little bit of ketchup and some sweetener in it. It's aggressive. It goes really well on pork. It lightens that heavy pork, that greasy pork up, cuts right through the fat, gives you a little bit of vinegar punch, leaves you wanting a little bit more. Really, I think probably our least popular and also most misunderstood barbecue sauce that we do. I spent some time in the Carolinas, so it's also my favorite as well, though.
Yeah, I was in Asheville, North Carolina, and that was the first time I had a North Carolina sauce. So when I came to Seismic and tasted this, for me, it was like the most refreshing thing to have. And good barbecue, if it's rubbed right and smoked right, frankly, doesn't need any fucking sauce at all, if you ask me. But I like vinegar. I like bitter. I like tart. So for me, it's a great way to mute and neutralize some of the fat that's in these meats. Go ahead.
Yeah, totally. You're absolutely right. And then from the North Carolina part of the Carolinas, we moved to the South Carolina part, which you'll see later on. We're going to do beer can chicken with our South Carolina mustard sauce. And I've had multiple people from South Carolina come up to us at our events and say, I've never seen this sauce out of South Carolina. It's a fun sauce. It's a mustard-based sauce. It's got also a lot of vinegar that's muted slightly with the brown sugar that we put into it. Really get you in your taste buds, really get you in the back of the throat with the mustard and the vinegar, and then just muted with that brown sugar that we use. Really great sauce. Started from the Germans that immigrated to South Carolina, and they brought their mustards with them for their bratwurst and their sausages. Well, being America, obviously the melting pot, a bunch of the colonists decided, hey, why don't we do something fun with these German mustards that are coming in? Why don't we vinegar it up and add some seasoning and add some sweetness to it? And that's how the South Carolina mustard sauce was born.
Getting back to fine dining, I think I told you that, I swear to God, I kid you not, the $36, $40 pork chop that is on the menu at Mustard's Grill up in Napa is the same fucking sauce that you're using. Okay, so don't let the fact that this is a South Carolina quote-unquote barbecue sauce fool you. There's a lot of highfalutin, fancy schmancy chefs that are probably making something similar, putting it on their menu and selling it for a ridiculous upsell. So once again, just because it's barbecue doesn't mean we're not putting love in the food here.
Yeah, absolutely. We do put a lot of love in the food. We do use quality ingredients, organic, locally sourced when we can. So yeah, we do care a lot about food, the quality of food, the preparation of food. I think in 2019, you really have to respect every ingredient you have because, quite frankly, I mean, we don't know how long we're going to be able to have these ingredients to be able to source organically grown tomatoes or to be able to source, local pork. That kind of stuff is unfortunately going away and replaced with the ConAgra corporate agricultural sort of big box products. And so, when possible, we try to use local ingredients and just really respect the animals and where these products are sourced from. The labor that goes into getting our wonderful tomatoes and the fact that a cow or a pig was killed to make this pork or brisket. I think it's very important to really respect where the ingredients come from, regardless of what kind of cooking you do. Home cooking to Michelin 3-star. If you don't respect the ingredients, it's going to show through in the cooking. And quite frankly, what are you even doing in the kitchen if you don't respect the animal that these products came from?
There was one more sauce, your Texas sauce. Now, this is for people who like it just a hair spicier, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So none of our sauces are crazy, spicy, or hot. We want you to be able to taste the sauce. We want you to be able to taste the meat. Anyone could throw 2 pounds of habaneros into something, blend it up, and call it a hot sauce. And yeah, it would be super hot. So the Texas red sauce is most commonly served on brisket. It's a tomato-based sauce with hints of cumin and coffee and just enough heat from the fresh ground pepper and red chili flakes that we use to make you wanting a little more at the end of it. It really, a true Texas red sauce should eat like a tomato soup. And so it's got that kind of granular viscosity that a tomato soup should have, while being, really great on a really fatty piece of brisket to, again, kind of cut through a little bit of that fat, temper that brisket's fat down a little bit. It's a great sauce, and also one of those sauces that people from Texas are really surprised to see on a menu out here in the Bay Area.
Being in the Bay Area, even though you're predominantly probably 95% of your sales are going to be the various meats that you have. So you have the smoked chicken, you've got the brisket, you've got the pork shoulder, or is it pork butt? Pork shoulder. Got the pork shoulder, and you've got the St. Louis ribs. Okay. But there's so many vegans and vegetarians. What do you do with these people, Chef?
It is totally true, and really a problem for caterers, I think, really locally in the Bay Area, maybe more than other places. All California, really. Yeah, for sure, LA, yeah, absolutely. So we have adapted our menu to sort of reflect that kind of culture in the Bay Area. And when I say that kind of culture, my wife is a vegetarian as well. So I get it. I understand where you're coming from. And so we make sure that the vegetarians eat as well as our meat eaters. And we've done that by taking all of the side dishes that normally would have meat in them if you were eating somewhere in the South or in the Carolinas, elsewhere in barbecue land. And we've changed them to be either vegetarian or vegan. And my favorite example is probably our pot liquor greens, ham hocks, right? That's what you're supposed to put in greens. We've managed to really, I think personally, encompass what a true pot liquor green should be while making it vegan. There's a lot of hot sauce, there's a lot of brown sugar, there's a lot of vinegar, but there's no ham anywhere. We make our own vegetable stock for it. And it turns out really well. I really like our pot liquor greens. My wife loves our vegan beans, which normally you would chop the leftover brisket into your beans and serve them with a little bit of brisket. We do a vegan style of beans, and they turn out really well. And I think they're really an underappreciated side dish. For main entrees, we've done some fun stuff with smoked mushrooms and tofu. We've turned that into kind of like a stewed, like almost curry style smoked mushrooms and tofu with lentils. We make a roasted red pepper sauce, and then we serve that over a bed of rice. Goes really well with our sauces, lets the vegans and the vegetarians go through our line and still stop at our sauce bar and feel like they're, getting the sauce experience that the meat eaters are getting at the end of the line as well. And then we've also sort of started to do some stuff with jackfruit, which is it's a great use of jackfruit. We're smoking it, pulling it like a pulled pork, and man, it really does look like a pulled pork when you shred it properly. And then we're doing a kind of a ragu of the jackfruit, some of our chopped collard greens, and a tomato sauce, and then we're putting that over a vegan polenta. So it's sort of like a little southern Italian sort of take on what you would traditionally get, like that pork ragu over polenta at like Scala's or somewhere like that in the Bay Area. So those are our two most popular vegan entrees. And then all of our side dishes are either vegan or vegetarian. Potato salads, mac and cheese, coleslaws. We have a great vegan potato salad that is a herb potato salad where we make this wonderful dressing with blended herbs and arugula, whole grain mustard, lemon juice for brightness. I think it's a really great side dish on its own, let alone the fact that it's vegan. It eats really well. It eats really like a potato salad. So we definitely try to make sure that the vegans and vegetarians are represented in the Southern cuisine while still trying to stay true to our roots as a barbecue caterer.
I love it. I love it. So this is Beer Talk Radio, Chef. We do have to talk a bit about beer. Are you a beer drinker?
I'm mostly a cocktail drinker, but I will drink any liquor that's put in front of me. So,
right on, Chef. What are your beer preferences?
So I really like darker beers. I like a little bit of a sweeter beer. Not to say that I won't drink an IPA, but I will. But I like to shy kind of away from the bitterness and really explore the more mellow sides of beer. I really like wheat beers as well. And I really do like kind of like, I don't want to say fruit infused, but like a cucumber habanero beer. Really top kind of notch place in the financial district. And for the life of me, I'm not going to remember their name, but they do kind of sausages, and they also have an amazing beer selection. And I had a really good, it might be McKellar Bar. Yeah. I like that. They're really, really fun. My wife had a really good blueberry beer, and I had an amazing cucumber spicy beer that I would totally drink every day.
Let's just say, for imaginary purposes here, if we were to pair your proteins with beers, what would that look like for you?
Wow, that's kind of a tough one for me. So first of all, I would suggest drinking what you like. Obviously, like who are we to tell you what your taste buds really like?
I'm the beer queen. I'm supposed to tell you what your taste buds like. We're chefs.
the beer queen should tell you what you like. Yes, but so it's a personal choice, but I think for the briskets, you have to go with something Texas, obviously. So I really like Shiner Box a lot. Lone Star is also a great Texas beer. Either one of those really goes well with the brisket. For the ribs, I like something a little lighter. There's a great brewery in Mendocino, the Lost Coast Brewery, and they do an excellent great white. It's like an American kind of like a light pilsner. It's really great white ale. Yeah, really great. I like it a lot, and I think because the ribs come glazed. They're sticky. You want something that kind of will cut through that without being too bitter like an IPA or something like that. Without being too bitter like an IPA. So the Great White, I think, that honestly, that's probably my favorite beer out there right now. in a big brewery. They have a lot of good stuff. And that's a fun time if you get up for a weekend too. I really like visiting them out at Lost Coast if you get up there.
Wait. You've been there?
Oh, tons of times.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh,
sorry.
All right. Quick tangent. Please talk about the brewery itself.
So it's a great time up there in Mendocino. That's where my wife and I honeymooned, is in Mendocino. So we try to get back up, a couple of times a year. Our old German Shepherd loves the ocean, and so we try to bring her up there so she can splash around in the water a little bit as well. Lots of dog-friendly accommodations up there, including the brewery. Actually, you can bring your dog. They have an outside seating area, and it's just such a fun time. Really traditional kind of gastropub before gastropub was a thing, sort of cuisine. With the beers, you can tour the facility as well. Tastings are awesome. It's a great time. It's a fun time for sure.
One of my Vegas buddies, who also has a craft beer show, got one of their sales reps in Vegas to come interview. So in the craft beer community, we're big fans of that place. And getting back to the pairing.
Yeah, for sure. So with the pork really, there's a wide variety of beers you can pair with the pork. But sort of tongue-in-cheek, I really like to do like an English golden ale from the Americana of barbecue and the pig farming colonists that broke away from this stuffy aristocratic English. It's fun to go back and pair one of their beers with a big pork sandwich, like the American-sized pork sandwich as big as your head, with the coleslaw and the drippings and the onion rings on the side. So it's fun if you can find a really good, English ale on tap, it's fun to pair that with it. The chicken, so our chicken it's mild. It's not as aggressive as our other barbecue. It's not as fatty as our other barbecue. So I think here you can definitely go IPA. You want something bitter. You want something with a razor's edge to it, to really sort of up the game with the chicken. And I think it pairs really well with the chicken, either on sandwich or just on the buffet line. For the vegans, I think you can have a lot of fun with the vegan sides and pairing beer. Again, IPA for sure. Shanty would work really well, something with a lemon brightness, a fruit beer, or I really like Hefeweizens as well. I think the wheat beers and the vegan dishes really go well together. So that's how I would pair the barbecue with beer. But again, it's kind of dealer's choice sometimes. If you want to drink Shiner Bock with barbecue because that's how you grew up in Texas, that's great, man. I love that.
Wow, I'm just so hungry now. You have decided to do something very special for our listeners. What is it that you're going to show us how to make?
Yeah, so we're going to do a fun beer can chicken, and we're going to do it in the oven instead of the smoker this time. So it translates a little bit easier for people who don't have an industrial-sized smoker at their disposal. So it's a lot of fun. We use a red rub that we make here in house. We use our South Carolina mustard sauce. We use a nice organic chicken out of Petaluma. So it's a lot of fun. It's an easy recipe to do. Feeds a family really well. You can go heavy and pair it with something like roasted potatoes or mashed potatoes, or you can go light and pair it with something like asparagus or wilted spinach, or shred it and put it on a chicken for the next day. This is a dish that's going to give you leftovers, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll turn out really well.
Well, I'm excited, but before we get to cooking, I do have to ask you some rapid fire questions. I ask all my guests about it. They're just silly questions, but it's just a way for us to get to know you a little bit better, Chef. So as quickly as you can think of the answer, who is your favorite Batman?
Oh, Adam West.
Top 3 favorite beer styles?
I would say Hefeweizen. I really like stouts, and I'll say I like a fruit beer as well.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
What is your hidden talent?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say probably creative writing.
chrome, copper, or stainless steel?
Oh, stainless steel.
Every chef says that. Every brewer is copper, and every chef is stainless steel. All right, thank you. Let's get to cooking.
So we've got the mustard sauce right here, and we're just going to nicely rub that bird down. You want to get everywhere on that bird, making sure to get in the crevices, on the skin. Really don't leave any part of the bird unmustard.
Unmustarded.
All right, so we've got that nice and rubbed down. He looks good. So what we're going to do now is change the gloves real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and start rubbing it with the red rub. We always recommend changing gloves between going from the sauce to the rub, because you're going to get a more even distribution if you're using nice and dry hands. We got our Texas red rub, which is a nice blend of spices, a little bit of sugar is in there. Really goes excellently with chicken products. It's what we use on all of our chicken products here at Seismic Barbecue. You want just a nice coat. The farther you go up, the nice and more evenly distributed coat that you get on that bird. And again, you want to make sure to really get that guy nice and coated with our rub. So under the armpits, get that guy, flip him back over, and you will see a little bit of this kind of like slotting off a little bit, but it's really not a big deal for this recipe. So we're going to call that guy nice and coated. We're going to tuck those wings back in our little trussed slits that we use there, and that bird is ready for the oven, or at least ready for the beer can. And so what we like to do with the beer can is I like to open mine up first, pour about a third of it into the pan, and what that's going to create is this nice little kind of steam bath for the bird as you're cooking it. You want your beer can about 3/4 full, maybe half full for this. So if there's a little bit left over, you can take a sip.
Woo! Cheers.
Not great beer, but it'll be perfect for the bird. And then we're going to attach this bird to his beer can and get him in an oven. And we're going with a 375-degree oven. We're doing it oven style today, so it's easier to emulate for people at home. Normally, we would go in our smoker for this kind of stuff. We figured that it'd be easier for people to sort of do if we did the oven. So, got that beer can right there. Chicken looks good. If you're not super happy with how the rub is turned out, once you get that bird into your pan, what you can do is you can go back over the top of it a little bit. And really all this is going to do is it's going to make the color of the bird when he comes out of the oven just a little bit better. So if you're in a rush, don't feel like you have to go back over that bird. So that's it right there. We've got a nice little pool of beer at the bottom. We've got the rest of the beer in that beer can, in that chicken. And now we're going to toss him in the oven. And he'll go for about an hour before we start checking the temperature.
Talking about cheap beer, I'm glad you actually bought the Modelo. I, as you know, like to do a lot of craft beer pairings and use craft beer for like maybe some really good sauces or if you're baking. But if it's braising or if it's a beer can chicken, get the cheapest shit you can find. Bud Light works great. PBR works great. Actually has a little bit more flavor than Bud Light. And Modelo, also, you agree it's not a great beer, but for cooking or braising something.
Braising, cooking stuff, definitely go for the less inexpensive stuff and save the expensive craft stuff for the table when your food comes out of the oven.
Is this something that you think would be fun to do, like, for a party? Like, if you get invited to a party and you make a fucking beer can chicken for your friends, you're probably going to be the most popular person there. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, totally. And this is an easy recipe too, guys. You can do this on a grill. You can do this in a smoker. You can do this in an oven. Basically, if you can get gas or electricity to it, you can do this recipe. Super easy. Bring a 6-pack. toss a couple of them into the chicken, drink the rest, have fun. You know, it's just about having fun. Well, what's the worst that happens? The chicken's a little overcooked. You have to let it go for another 15 minutes. You know, like no big deal, guys. It's an easy recipe, no stress. Just have fun with it.
I love that beautiful rub. It is a bit caramelized, and I like that because I know that it's gotten in there, and it's not just gonna be all sweet from that mustard sauce. It's gonna be like, chef's getting his knives out. It's not gonna be all sweet just from that mustard sauce. It's gonna have a nice balance to it. I got some beers that we're going to try with this chicken, and I'm gonna go get them, and you can watch Chef carve the chicken. I want the wing. Chef has also created for us. We also have some charred carrots here. And we've got some charred tomatoes, like some little accoutrement. Chef has some smoked garlic cloves, little thyme. Let's taste this. I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
You can tell it's a working kitchen because we only have the disposable silverware, right? Yeah. Good.
Juicy.
And we got
I want some skin. I need some skin.
Skin on that. And you got your sauces up here if you wanted to dip it in some more mustard or a Kansas City sweet right here.
Oh my God.
You can also, if you're doing like a presentation, you can also, right before service, just drizzle a little bit over it. And then obviously serve it on the side as well. Really, again, it's up to you guys. However you want to present it, however you want to serve it. There's no right or wrong answer here.
I think that let's say this was let's say you're running a gastropub or a tap room. You could easily sell this with mashed potatoes and roasted carrots, sell the whole thing for what, $40? I think people will pay it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I absolutely. It's, it presents well on a plate. It pairs with anything as far as side dishes go, and everyone likes a good roasted half or whole chicken. Mm-hmm. It's a recipe that everyone should know how to do. Julia Childs would say that. And it really is a great addition to any menu, I think.
Well, speaking of pairing, Chef, I wanted to thank you for doing my show. And you did say that you liked dark beers, and I got this for you. It's called Death and Taxes Black, and it's coming out of Santa Rosa, so it's right here in the North Bay. But for us to drink right now, just because, A, we're in San Francisco, B, the Chase Center opened up, I think, 2 days ago. And fucking, it's Dub Nation out here. Sorry, we got to represent. And it's by Magnolia Brewery, and they have 2 locations in San Francisco. And funny quick story about Magnolia. The very first day, literally the very first meal that I ever had in San Francisco was at Magnolia Brewing Company, at their Haight-Ashbury location. And now they have one that's not too far up the street. It's literally between here and the Chase Center on 3rd and I think 20th or 22nd or Mariposa, somewhere over there. Dub Nation, Warriors. I like it. And cheers, Chef.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that is full-bodied.
That's really nice.
Not too bitter.
No bitterness at all. No real bitterness on the aftertaste. Yeah, great pairing. Great pairing.
This doesn't need any sauce.
No, it really doesn't.
See, this is the best part right here. I'm old school. I like the burnt part. That's the most flavor right there. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. This is exactly how I was hoping it would turn out.
That's a ton of fun. Yeah.
You know what? Where's the pan dripping?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We don't need the sauces
No,
at all.
we really don't. I was thinking that too. Those right there. You can turn that into a clear gravy. Thicken that up with a little bit of flour.
Beer gravy. Chef said, pour the drippings on there because that is all the beer.
Yeah,
that's the beer and the fat.
Yeah. Take a little root
and
bam, you got yourself a gravy to go with it and the mashed potatoes.
Said make that in with the roux to make a gravy. You can also put that on the mashed potatoes. Beer gravy, that's a first. I think you might need.
We should do that.
Beer gravy, I think you might need to register that or something. What is it? Patent that? Get a patent on that?
Next time when we have the smoke.
If we'd have smoked it, it would have been that shiny
Yeah, it
glazy
would
on the
have that
outside.
beautiful, but we would still be here waiting for it. 350 oven versus.
Chef says that, I'm still chewing. Y'all got to excuse me. Chef says that if you're going to smoke it, 220 degrees at 90 minutes. We did about 45 minutes at 370 degrees, 375 degrees, but we had it on low fan. It got a little bit charred. We covered it and then let it go for another 15 minutes, and it came out perfectly.
You want to take the rest of them?
You know I do.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes this week's episode of Beer Talk Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please comment and rate on iTunes, and that will help other people find the podcast. If you are interested in receiving one of my Street Team swag bags, please visit my website, www.beertalkradio.net. Enter your rapid fire questions and your name into the subscribe area, and I will send you one. If you're interested in being on the show, I'd be happy to put a clip of your voice and your commentary in the following episode by leaving a voicemail. The link to the voicemail is in the show notes. If you have any questions for me or past guests, I'd be happy to get those answered for you. Send me an email at jenny@beertalkradio.net. Thanks for drinking with me, and have a good one.